Welcome to the first episode of Van Jammin. This is our music podcast. We have your three hosts, Alec Maskell,
Braiden Sunshine,
and David Kuhn.
And thanks for joining us. We're starting off a music podcast. We're just kind of talking about different things in music, and honestly, different topics abound. We're not sure yet, but
yeah, we'll see what comes up.
Yeah.
Right now, so since this is our first episode, and it's kind of Alec's brainchild, but we've all been into the Grateful Dead for a very long time. You know,
well, me more recently than you guys.
Okay, but still,
really the only last 3 years.
You've
for
come
me.
a long way in 3 years.
Yes.
But because of our shared love of their music and their whole persona and vibe, we decided to get together and sit down and record some of our musings about their music and their journey as musicians. So with that, this is our first edition of that podcast, hopefully coming at you a couple of times. And Alec is going to introduce this show that we listened to over the past week just to get prepared for this
Tell
discussion.
us about it, please.
Well, actually, before we hop into the show, I figured we'll just all go over a little bit quick, like what we all do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Dave,
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going into my senior year of music production and technology at the University of Hartford. Woo! Represent. And I've been playing saxophone for since 5th grade. Started playing guitar in high school, and then in junior year I was like, okay, music is what I want to do. But I was really interested in the production side of things and the sound design stuff, so I wanted to go more so into that. So yeah, now I'm doing that, and I'm looking for jobs. Yeah, you go.
All right, Matt. So my name is Braiden Sunshine. I am I guess now I'm a senior at UConn, going for a communications major. That's my scholastic record there. But generally what I do is I'm a full-time professional musician, playing anywhere and everywhere that I get to. And I've been doing that for about 13 years now. So, but my relationship with the Grateful Dead goes deeper, as my dad never sang me lullabies per se. I mean, he did, but he sang me Ozzy Osbourne, but mainly Grateful Dead. Monkey and the Engineer, Ripple, a bunch of all the, and he changed A Friend of the Devil. He changed the lyrics to Friend of Jesus. He's like, all right, Ted, I'm going to take my time. A friend of Jesus is a friend of mine. That's what he did.
That sounds about exactly on par for you.
So, yeah, but with that's my whole background.
I am entering my senior year as well at Suffolk University up in Boston and studying media and film. Trying to get into screenwriting, directing, really just anything with film. I'm really obsessed with film. Yeah. And I've always been big into music. I know we've talked a lot about the Dead already. I think we might even cover some other bands that we really like on this show. So we're looking to do
hopefully some Pigeons.
Pigeons.
Gotta get you guys to listen to them.
Yes. Yeah. Some Dave Matthews Band, maybe Phish.
Could do some Phish. Could do some Dave Matthews too.
Yeah. Maybe some Pearl Jam.
Could do some of that.
I'd do some Pearl Jam. Not a huge fan, but I'll do some Pearl Jam.
There will be some thoughts.
I think we can do anything.
No, there will be some great discussion.
We should do Maggot Brain. We should listen to all of Maggot Brain.
Yes.
And
but that will be in the future.
Yes,
let's
we'll
talk
get to
about
that later.
The now.
In the now.
As the Dead, we're so famous for
being present in the moment.
Basically, we just wanted to do this podcast to combine our video and audio interests and to just come together on a piece and a project. We've been great friends for years, and so here we are.
And just general love of music, I'd say.
I feel like we should give a little context to where we are, though. So one of the places that really, I mean, we've always had a great relationship with music and the Grateful Dead. You know, David a little more so recently, but one thing that really solidified that love for that music, at least, it always was solidified to me, but at least in a different concrete type ways. A couple of years ago, we all got in this particular van, which is an old retired prison van for a fun fact. So there's no door handles on the inside. Her name is Bertha, named after the song.
Yes.
Yeah. And we took a 3,200-mile road trip around the Great Lakes, or a couple of the Great Lakes, in the back of this thing with a couple of plywood bunks and some provisions. And so the roof is covered in stickers from other concerts we've been to or places that we've explored to in it. And we figured it would be a perfect little venue for us to get down into the weeds on music that we like, because on that road trip, man, we had some of the deepest, like, you could have won awards for some of the stuff that you came out with.
Oh, yeah.
Sitting in the back of this van.
Yeah.
So we figured that this would be a fitting environment to foster our first couple episodes of the Van Jammin podcast.
And we also took this thing up to Saratoga on the last tour. We stayed a night in Saratoga. And
that was fun.
Saw the
that was
band.
a good jam session
That was a great jam session.
I think one of my favorite memories in this van. I mean, there's so many. There's countless. Upstate Michigan, Ohio.
Ohio Pit Stop. That was going to be a name.
Ohio Pit Stop was an interesting one.
I always remember driving in downtown Chicago. That was definitely...
Yeah, dude, Chicago from that road trip, still my favorite city.
Trying to pull this thing into that parking garage, that was something.
Dude, Detroit was fun.
Yes, Detroit was a good
Detroit
time,
was Detroit, but it was fun.
So, yeah. But, yeah, so here we are. Yeah. Do we want to rip into the show?
Yeah, let's get right into it.
All right.
I think are we done with
with intros?
Yeah.
With bios?
Yeah. I think we'll yeah. All right. Cut. We chose Wake Up to Find Out, which is taken from the song Eyes of the World. That is a CD of the Nassau Coliseum show in Uniondale, New York on March 29th, 1990. Couple significant things with this show. It was the first time the band played with Branford Marsalis, the great saxophonist. They had him on for Birdsong in the first set, and then the entirety of the second set. Also, it was part of the very famous Spring 90 tour, which sadly was the last tour featuring pianist Brent Midland.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, man.
Which is it's a great show.
Yes,
for him.
It is a really
crazy show.
Yeah,
and he pulls out.
And he's
stops,
arguably one of the best. But we'll get into that later.
So the set list. First set is Jack Straw, Bertha, We Can Run, Ramble on Rose, When I Paint My Masterpiece, Birdsong, and Promised Land. And then the second set is Eyes of the World, Estimated Profit, Dark Star, Dreams into Space, Dark Star Reprise, The Wheel, Throwing Stones, Turn on Your Love Light, and a Knockin' on Heaven's Door encore. We had U-Star last night, Braiden.
Yeah,
what was your favorite song on the
favorite
show?
song? Ooh, give me a second. Move your hand. I gotta look at this because there was a lot of really good songs on there. But the thing is, I'm stuck between. I really like the Bertha. I really liked the We Can Run. It's difficult, man. I would say it's between the Birdsong and the We Can Run, because the Birdsong is fantastic, especially with Marsalis on.
Yeah, his
I mean,
intro
my God,
to it, yeah,
so good. But We Can Run, Brent is just like pulling my soul out of my body. Yeah. I mean,
the amount of heart that he puts
it gives
into
me
that
chills,
singing
man.
is
And
like it's just.
The way he does it in particular, he's got a tone, he's got a stylistic tendency, he's got an emotional, he's got an ability to evoke that a lot of people lack, and I appreciate that, especially in that song.
And he's burning the keys on that
song.
Oh
my God. The whole show, man, he's ripping.
You want to go next?
That's a hot take. I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna have to come back.
No,
to that.
I know, because I know you had some thoughts on me.
No second set songs for that one. I'm gonna let's.
You had some thoughts on the
Yeah, we know where you're going. So
okay, well,
we know exactly where
so
you're going.
So
go ahead.
I have a list here of the best songs, and I have 5 that I couldn't really decide, but I think I can decide now. It would be Birdsong, Eyes of the World. I thought the Jack Straw was great. I did like the Dark Star, although I think it's not the best Dark Star. It's nowhere near the best. But I also really like the drums. I think the drums was awesome. And were we doing like least favorites or ones that maybe disappointed us?
Whatever you
Wait, can we do that?
Whatever you guys want to do.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna input that real quick. My probably Ramble on Rose would be my the one that I was kind of disappointed. I didn't hate it, but I was disappointed with it. Where I kind of was like, feels kind of lacking, you know?
Yeah.
I was disappointed with Promised Land. I liked it.
See,
it was ripping, but
see, I have that as one of my surprises. The ones that I was kind of like, ooh. See, I normally don't like that song, but I was like, ooh, this is kind of
interesting.
See, we're gonna have good discussions on this.
Yes. I'm surprised you didn't mention. Did you say the eyes?
Yeah, that was the first one I said.
I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
probably. I think that is.
Yeah, that was the first one I
that's
said.
My favorite, and then Birdsong's like number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, Birdsong was. So
I gotta say, I know. It's hard to pick a favorite on this show. There's a lot of good ones. I'm gonna be honest. I would agree with you about the Dark Star. That it's not the best. To me, I think the Dark Star on this album was like the high moment. That was the moment where I felt like they really like came together in a way. And not that was the best moment that Branford came together with them, but there was just something. There's just something about that song where I really felt it melded, and it was for me the high point on this album. I don't know if it was my favorite. I actually would agree. I think that the Bird song is the best. I think that Bird song, when he first comes out and just all the way through, is it stands out.
We seem to have a consensus on that particular one.
That Bird song is phenomenal. Yes, phenomenal Bird song.
The Bird.
I said that out of the mic, so you can't.
I would agree with you on the eyes. I think the eyes is one of the shining moments on this thing. I loved the estimated Prophet.
That was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I did like that.
That's where
I liked the estimated, but I didn't think it was. Yes. Honestly, it was kind of, to me, it was one of the lower-ish points.
Fair enough.
It slowed down.
There were a lot on this thing.
It didn't feel as tight, as as eyes, because maybe it was just coming off of Eyes of the World.
I think the energy of Eyes is better than the energy in the Estimated Prophet.
Yeah, and I think that's why maybe I'm a little more like. I didn't really like the estimated as much.
So I think I'm personally going to go Birdsong, Eyes, Dark Star, Estimated for my top 4. And I will I guess my honorable mention, I don't know if I have a disliked the most. I guess the Throwing Stones, but I'm just not as into that song. It's not really even much the version they played. I think that the one that I really did enjoy, although I love this song and it's not the best, but I'll just throw it in there because you guys didn't, was the Masterpiece, When I Pay My Masterpiece.
I really like that song, but that version didn't grab me as much as others.
I wasn't.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
but I really like that song a lot.
Right?
Yeah, it's Bobby.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Okay, so I was gonna bring that up. The whole show, Bobby was in this weird seesaw form. He was either on point or he was just on the ragged edge. And in certain songs, that played to his benefit. In certain songs, it played to his detriment. Sometimes he could use the rasp, and sometimes he wanted to be clear.
See, I would say Masterpiece specifically, Bobby's voice kind of goes through that multiple times.
Exactly.
Because I have written down here, Bobby singing, in that song specifically, I was like, Bobby's singing is great. He really is at the perfect age / maturity for his voice. But I think that was because the early parts of the song, it's a little rough. It's a rough intro. And I honestly, that's kind of how I felt for a lot of the songs on this album. It felt like it took them a minute to get into the songs.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
They're arthritic at this point.
You see, I would argue, I think I liked Bobby more on the Masterpiece than I did on Promised Land personally.
Ooh, I'm not sure.
I did
I was going to say yes, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would have probably agreed with you a few days ago, but I think listening to it again.
You know who I really liked on the Promised Land? I like Jerry.
Yes.
Even though that sounds dumb in the back, he's just kind of warbling along, honest, but he's going at it, man.
I did not have any moments on this album, and I know this is kind of typical of early 90s to through the 90s, but like I gotta be honest, this album, there's a lot of moments where Jerry's killing it on the guitar, but I had very few moments where his singing was actually like connecting with me. I felt like,
see, I would say for me, part of the reason I like The Eyes of the World is because he has some of those.
he's a little bit better on that one.
Yeah, he is a little better, and I think honestly, singing wise, it's one of the better Eyes of the World. Because I don't know, the Red Rocks one, I don't think I don't like the singing on the Red Rocks one. And
would you say this is one of the best Eyes of the World?
Oh yeah. I mean, the ones I've listened to, yes, it's the best Eyes of the World I've heard.
Really?
Yeah, it is my favorite.
See, I have to disagree
Those are some
with you
words.
strongly.
It is. It certainly is. But, I haven't listened to a lot of Eyes of the World.
Fair enough.
I haven't listened to a ton of them. But
well, the one that I know you have heard that I really think is better than this one, or it's not even that's better, it's just I like it more, I think, is the one off of the 91 Giants show. Because that opens it, and it really just fucking kicks it off, and like is the perfect opener.
I mean, that was the one that like introduced me to Eyes of the World, was hearing it on that album. And that is a great Eyes of the World. But
I would say
I like this one better because I think Jerry's singing is a lot worse in the Giants one.
Well, the other thing
I think
is
Jerry's singing was more on point in this one.
What is it that he does? If you can describe something that's different, like because I know I think about it. Late 90s Jerry, or not late 90s Jerry, like early 90s Jerry is just kind of. I can't visualize as a vocalist. I cannot visualize how he technically sets up his body to do it. It just kind of comes out of him.
Yeah.
Whereas in the early days, you can hear it and see him in your mind's eye setting up and hucking those notes out. So what do you like about the other Eyes of the World that? Is he more evocative? Is he more animated? What about it?
In this
brings
one,
you in?
specific like
what
do I like about this one? I honestly think it's that because on Red Rocks he's not very in tune. Same with the Giants, and those are really the two big ones I remember the most. And this one, he's in tune.
I like the boss.
And I think
helps.
it's his voice. Maybe it's something with the sound of his voice mixed with the sound of the saxophone.
Yeah,
that I
can get with that.
I think they blend so well together.
Yeah.
And I think that might be it. But there's just something that I'm like, when you get that feeling inside of you when you hear, I don't know, a great Dead song or something, or like that's what I felt I feel it every time I hear the Eyes. I'm like, oh my God, especially when the saxophone comes in.
My big thing with Jerry's voice on this show is he's really just in that hoarse, like he's just hoarse as fuck. He just sounds hoarse the whole show.
I mean, he's been doing it for 25 years at that point.
With that,
I also like this isn't really a fair comparison, honestly. I love like the Boston 77, like the Night Before Cornell. That Eyes is like my favorite, but that's a different era, And I would say though the benefit of this show as opposed to the Giants show for the Eyes is that you get Brent. You get Brent on this one. And also, obviously, like, Branford is amazing on this.
I mean, I've said it before, like, before the show. But, like, Eyes was meant to have... It just sounds like it was meant to have saxophone to me. Like, it's so... Ugh.
Well, let's talk about the saxophone.
So tasty.
Let's talk about Branford Marsalis.
So yummy.
Gotta listen to some more shows with Branford Marsalis.
I gotta listen to him. I haven't listened to any of his solo stuff.
Neither.
Or like whatever. I don't even know if that's what band he's in or whatever.
I think
it's
he
a
has
solo
as well.
Yeah.
Him and his brother do some stuff together.
I gotta check it out now.
And
though,
he showed up and pulled out every stop. Yeah. I mean,
he didn't even also have any. He had no knowledge of. He just got up there and improv'd. Like that's the other thing. He didn't know the songs, nothing.
I mean, they were just like probably just like, here's the key, do it.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, all right.
I feel like him and Jerry, even though I didn't see it. I mean, there's no visual record of this show. There probably is. I just don't know where it is. I listened to the album on Spotify. But I got the intuition that him and Jerry had a very good offstage relationship, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying I can in my mind's eye see Jerry doing his big old happy jolly Jerry smile at Branford Marsalis, and him just doing it right back while playing this crazy sax solo. I feel like that whole band is very good at that, but he came in and was immediately a very accepted and well-oiled member of that band, even if he might not have known exactly what he was doing in the moment. He was feeling it exactly the way he should have.
Yeah. I think you can definitely hear it.
Yeah.
Going back and forth, especially on the Dark Star. I would say in particular,
I would agree.
You can really hear them like, I don't know, just
and
working with each other. And
that's
like
one of my peak
really
things
jamming.
about that Dark Star is that call and response that they do. Jerry and Brent are known and very much love to do that call and response thing where they're really like playing to each other and in almost a way that like I felt in the earlier years Bobby and Jerry were doing more. And not that they were doing it any less, but he really does that call and response with Brent during those years. And I felt like on this album, he did it so much more with Branford, which was really cool and refreshing.
Yeah, it was great. And I think you hear it even sometimes, like you hear all three of them just mixing together and doing call and responses and just like bouncing off of each other. And I like, in terms of like the best performers, I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's definitely them three. It's Brent, Jerry, and Branford.
That kill the show.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you're just talking like members, then I would say Jerry, Brent, and Bill. Actually, as well. I thought the drumming was fantastic on this album.
Phil was, I think we all agreed, Phil was
lacking, yes.
Yeah. Phil had some moments.
I think part of why I liked The Estimated a little bit was because that was kind of the Phil moment a little bit. He was this way more. So are you telling me?
Can you just hold it more kind of facing you?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you looking
Sorry.
Well, yeah, I was just I was looking.
Am
at
I the middle one?
It's kind of.
You're
you're the top one, right?
I'm
you're
the middle.
A,
He's the bottom.
You're A, and then B is Braiden, and then D is David.
Ah, nice.
Oh, that's actually sick.
Very
Cool.
clever. Very clever.
Very clever.
But yeah, I think I really did like The Estimated Profit because especially in the intro, it there's a little bit more of that, a little more Phil.
Yeah. No,
But
I think with Phil, I think it was a lot of his I think it was just his tone. I think he was going off, and I think he was doing what he normally does. I think it was just hard to hear him because his tone wasn't as like lead line focus. I guess it was a lot more bassy. And not as much like mids to upper mids, which is like generally like you hear him like you can almost hear him like press down on the strings and like pick.
Yeah.
And you can hear the pick like a lot, but you couldn't really hear it in this show.
yeah.
So I think that might have just been, it could have just been up like his tone, was just not there, or just different.
I'm curious to go into like a few of these songs with you guys. I think you had mentioned the Jack Straw. I was curious to hear a little more on that. The intro Jack Straw that starts the show.
Yes, let me get my notes.
It's not very. It's okay. You're going first.
You go for it.
I don't have much, so I'll just be quick. Yeah. But it's not a long Jack Straw, and it's not a bombastic. This is the Grateful Dead at a live show, a 16-minute, raise the hair on the back of your neck and make you stand up and shout kind of song. But it's definitely a good Jack Straw. I don't want to put it down.
It's an awesome opener.
It really is, but it is an opener.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm also gonna be short, so I'll just say real quickly. I liked
Mine
this.
is also short. So I'm
okay.
But let's not phrase it that way, David, because it makes it sound like we're talking about something else.
I think mine's going to be more like cut. Ready? We're going to...
And go.
All right, and we're back.
In the Jammin podcast.
No, I just want to say with Braiden, like I'm kind of with Braiden in the sense of like I think it's a good jackstraw. It's not the best jackstraw. It's kind of just it's just kind of like the opener 5-minute like get you into the show jackstraw, and that's not bad. It's a straightforward version. It's not showy.
Yes, I agree. I do, but I think it's. I mean, what I've written down is just that the harmonies are great. Singing's great. It's the whole. I would say it's probably the one song where the singing is great throughout. And they're super tight, and yeah, I just said it's overall really good.
They do.
It's like nice. It's just such a solid version, and it's not my favorite jackstraw.
Yeah,
but it's up there.
I would agree with you that towards the end, the three of them. Singing wise, they are really on.
Yeah.
Again, I can't get over just Brent as a member of the Grateful Dead as a happening to that musical experience. He is such a force to be reckoned with. Just his harmonies, his high harmonies in Jack Straw. Every time they come through, I'm like, oh my God, Brent, keep going, because it sounds so good. And if I were to get up and dance for that song and I was being critical, I'd get up and dance for it anyway. I mean, it's a good Jack Straw. Who wouldn't? But if I was sitting being critical, he'd be the person to get me on my feet. Every time he came in during the chorus, I was like, I got to be dancing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just the emotion and the power he brought through that particular tone that he's got so good.
Yeah, that like raspy voice.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's not, it's raspy, but it's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
And
it's a good balance.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think that especially on the Weekend Run, that's really
Yes.
really what pulls you in to that song so strongly is like his singing over what he's doing with. I know we were kind of discussing this earlier, but harpsichord like sounding. Dave was saying he thinks they might.
It's like a piano mic
I think it is an acoustic piano because it does. I mean, it could be electric. I'm not sure. I have no idea. Like it very well could be.
Well, I'm just saying on that giant stadium show.
It also very well could. It's definitely a piano. It's just like
or a manipulation of a piano setting.
Yeah,
it's
it
sounds
like
there.
It's like an acoustic piano, but he's really just playing for the most of the show. Honestly, is that he's really just playing in the in like the upper octaves of the piano, because like you really don't get a lot of bass from him or anything in the lower frequencies.
Do you think at all that because I would say generally I think his playing style is a lot of that, like it's mostly in the upper octaves. Do you think that lends itself to why 80s Dead has that kind of like, it's got a little bit of that like pop rock feel, like it's a little bit poppier? Do you think that the piano lends itself to that?
That is a broad spread question, but it's also not a bad question.
Yeah, I think it could. I haven't really thought about that much.
Because I think Brent has a lot to do. I personally think that the piano has a lot to do with the 80s sound, specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can define any of their like eras.
Also, it is
by a lot, like you could define it just by pianists.
Yeah, he said what I was gonna say. You can define it by pianists, but also what's interesting is defining within each iteration of the group where they had a seismic shift in their, expressive ability or what they preferred doing. I think that Brent absolutely had an effect on their musical direction as to like how they played their music. But I also think back to your point about he plays more with like upper notes, right hand. He's not very bassy. I think he plays where he sings. I think he likes that, he likes that whole register of being able to be expressive and bombastic and maybe a little bit unexpected, because that mobility is easily afforded in the upper range. It's not that easily afforded in the lower range. And if you're a righty, and maybe I don't know if he's a righty or a lefty, then his left hand was just holding down the marks, and he's going at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think even less of a technical perspective and more of just a instrumentalist perspective, I think he's playing where he sings. because he's got more expression there, or he might feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I could definitely see it being that.
Which isn't a bad thing, man. He's
I think he kills it. I think part of the reason I like that sound is because I think their whole. I mean, from a like mixing and like sound design viewpoint, every instrument occupies its own space in the frequency spectrum is what it feels like, and it just all fits so nicely. Like nothing is overcrowding another instrument. You feel like you can kind of hear everything in its own, I don't know, in its own form, and it fits.
I've got
it all
some
just fits like almost like a puzzle piece. Mm-hmm. I would say the only thing that was missing on this show would be a little more mids. Oh yeah, well more. You could always use more cowbell. Come on, listen to
no
boys.
I got something to add to that though. I realized literally this afternoon or yesterday, Bobby's tone has always been mildly abrasive to my ear. You know, I like a more caramel type tone. I don't know if that makes any sense, but something that's like sweet and kind of caresses, but can also be bold and have a stance when he needs to. Bobby's always been very sharp, very metallic, very
yes.
But I understand that's what he's going for. I'm not knocking what his personal preference is. I just never understood it until I was listening to a couple of different shows in tandem with this show. I was mixing it up because I was on a road trip. Mm-hmm. And it was I think it was this show, but it might have been the 77 show I was listening to. I'm pretty sure it was this, though. His tone is sharp again. Just kind of like, I mean, not just like Dead & Co., but at Dead & Co. I also noticed that it was sharp to my ear. And it didn't compliment Mayer as well, but God, it compliments Jerry.
Yeah.
I did not notice that until I sat down with this show and understood that he does that because of Jerry, not because of it might be because I like this style, but I was listening to an interview with him, and he's like, my sole job is to do everything I can to be the best background and backup for that guy, because that guy's doing all the cool stuff. So he's complimenting Jerry as best he possibly can, and now that I understand that that's the origin of his tone, it sounds, well, more easily complimentary. It fits better. It fits like that puzzle piece you were discussing
earlier.
Yeah,
it fits nicely. I think that's another reason when I was first getting into the Dead, and when we went to Dead & Company, and you were trying to get me into Wolf Bros,
it's a sharp tone.
I was always like, I just don't like Bobby's tone. But when I would go back to listen to Dead albums, I wouldn't even really. It's not that I wouldn't notice Bobby. It's just I wouldn't be like, yikes, that's rough on my ears. And I think it's for that exact reason that you were just saying.
I don't think I really, to that point, I don't think I noticed that I think the song of theirs where you really first, if you don't always hear Bobby as much, where you really can find him. I'm not saying on this album, but Althea. He has that sharp kind of abrasive attitude on Althea, and he's using slide a lot of the time too. So that lends itself to it, I think, as well. But that song, I always notice he kind of sticks out a little bit, but it works. And the other thing is that I think his tone now has changed even way more than back then, because when he does Wolf Bros, to your point, Wolf Bros, when he plays with the Wolf Bros, it is very janky and weird, and because they're set up more like a jazz trio, and it is strange when when you're there seeing them, even when he's on acoustic, it's got that exact sharp attack.
Yeah.
And I think it's the way he's picking.
That's
what it is. I think you can hear. Yeah.
He also doesn't. I've noticed too. I don't know if this is as much back then, but especially with Wolf Bros, he doesn't let stuff resonate. It's very he kind of just.
He does almost picks, like a quick little flick of the wrist, and then almost dampens it real quick or something. Yeah.
But I think his tone now, to your point with Dead, I think Dead & Co. and with Wolf Bros, it's even more. It's almost
sharper.
Yeah.
It's even more.
Yeah.
I'm Bobby,
and it doesn't work as much.
I appreciate that perspective as well, because I agree. I don't think it works as much, but I appreciate that he is Bob Weir do whatever the
course,
fuck you want. It's like
He still isn't.
It's
Yeah.
what his, you know.
it's his world.
It's
We're
his,
just playing in it. Like,
Exactly.
But I mean, in the same respect, you're absolutely right. I don't believe, in my personal opinion, that it works as well in a full mix as what his sharper tone would do to complement Jerry's more mellow playing and tones that he played with.
See, I wrote down. I actually wrote down a specific note about a moment where I loved Bobby's tone on this show, which was around the 5:15 mark during Estimated Profit. There's a jam. I think it's the second kind of solo and jam that they're going into. And I realized later, I think that is also a big reason why I liked that song so much, because I think it's him. I could be wrong, could be Jerry, but I'm pretty sure it's Bobby during that jam who throws on, it almost sounds like he throws on like an overdrive pedal or something, but he goes for a little bit more of like an overdriven tone, almost like what he had on like the Giants show later.
Yeah.
And he kind of does this one moment where he's chording, and it's like this overdriven tone, and I really liked it. But it's very clearly distinct from like his tone the rest of the show. I think there's even other moments where he might have used that tone as well, but I just probably didn't notice them as clearly. But does anyone have a song that they want to rip into next? That I think the Bird song
actually.
is probably.
No,
We
I
haven't
did.
touched the Bird
we
song
haven't even
yet.
touched the Bird song, but
You
I
got
do.
something
Wait,
different. Go
really
ahead.
quick. I do want to say, it's not really a specific song because he does it a few times, but Brent's organ,
Yes.
so good. His organ playing, and I think specifically on.
Take your time.
Yeah, I want to say on Promised Land specifically.
Oh.
I think that's the best part of that song
Okay.
is Brent's organ on Promised Land.
See,
and
you
it's-
liked the Promised Land. What did you think was so strong about it?
Okay, well, actually, I like Promised Land as a song, but I wasn't so happy with this particular one.
Oh, okay. I thought you liked this.
Because
version.
I liked this Promised Land. There were a couple of times when I found myself singing along to it pretty strongly in a car, but Bobby forgot the lyrics. I'm sorry.
I didn't even pick that up.
Like, I mean,
see, I got to be honest. First, full disclosure. I think you guys definitely disclaimer. I should say. I think you guys definitely absorbed the show a little bit more than I did. I definitely could have like spent a little bit more time exploring this one.
well, Grateful Dead shows
Yeah.
are so dense that you have to listen to them time and time and time. I had
Yeah.
this on like while I was doing dishes and cleaning the house and driving on a road trip like couple
that's
hours.
what it was for me as well.
Exactly,
I was
just
whenever
leave
I
it
got
on.
a chance, like, and I was gonna play music, I was putting on this
Exactly, and it's a good show and it's got a lot of ups and downs. God
show.
damn.
We want to go on to Birdsong?
Yes, let's get right into
I'm
it.
sorry, Braiden.
What are you thinking?
Well, I
We're going. I was
guess
like, that's.
getting
I just have a couple of
impassioned.
quick comments about the first set because Birdsong's towards the end of the first set. So I'll
Yep.
just say a couple of quick things, and if anyone disagrees, we can expand.
I'll
I
throw
think
you
the
out of my-
Bertha is pretty solid, but I think it's just a pretty straightforward Bertha. Wasn't really blowing me away.
Yeah, I didn't even write notes. For
I would
Bertha.
say
I was just
if
kinda
a
like,
average Bertha is a 5, I would make it a 5.7.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because it was better than average, but it wasn't like I'm not.
Yeah,
yes.
we all loved the We Can Run. Brent was the star of the show.
So good.
The Ramble on Rose, I thought, kind of the same thing as with Bertha. It didn't blow me away. I liked it, but
Yeah, I liked it just because I like Ramble on Rose. I'm biased for that fact, but
Yeah.
it was again like a 5.7 to 6. If your average is a 5 out of 10.
Yeah,
I
see,
think-
I would put it below a 5 if I'm being
Really?
honest. Yeah, I really was just kind of like, because I like Ramble on Rose.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't? It's a great song. But yeah, I don't know. This version really just did not do it for me. I think it just.
What's it come down to? What didn't do it?
It was kind of like everything. Nothing really stood out as being like good. Not good. Like great.
Nothing stood out as being.
Everything.
I don't know,
It was all
good.
like all right.
You sound like
it was
a
just all right.
You sound like a pageant mom. Like, I don't know. What was wrong with my performance, Mom? Oh, nothing. Just nothing about it stood out to me as, I don't know, good.
Yikes.
You can just stop now. That's the end of David's.
All right,
that's
I'm out,
Dave's
man.
out.
Goodbye. That's awesome.
All right, so Birdsong.
Yeah, let's go on to Birdsong. What a great transition.
So I know you obviously brought up. We were talking about how Branford was switching up the sax as he was on in this thing.
I don't know if he does it on Birdsong. Yeah, I'm not sure if he switches it on Birdsong. He does it on
but
Eyes
what
of the
is he
World.
playing on?
Yes,
Do you know what
He's playing soprano.
Okay.
I know for a fact he's playing soprano. I don't know if he switches to tenor. I don't think he does at all on Birdsong. I know he switches on Dark Star.
I think with Birdsong, you know, there's obviously something about all the songs that he's on with the saxophone where you're like, oh, that song was kind of like meant to have sax on it. I think that, to your point, The Eyes of the World, definitely. Like, I do agree with you. When you hear that song, you're like, oh, this song should have had sax on the studio album version. But Birdsong was another one of those ones. Like, some of the other songs, they worked, but I was also like, oh, I also like versions that way more that don't have this. And I would say I would say that the Veneta version I probably like more than this one of Birdsong, but you disagree? I do
disagree. I love the Veneta too as well.
You like this one more?
This
might be a number 2 though, honestly. Like, this Birdsong was really, I was like, wow. You know? Like, wow.
This is a really good Birdsong. This one is made by the saxophone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
he kills it.
Yeah.
He kills it.
He kills it, but it's just so interesting when you've got this beautifully built cake by an artisan, and then you can't possibly make it any better, and then you drizzle the secret sauce on the top. It's like, oh my God, it's so much better. How do you do that? You add a saxophone.
I also thought Jerry
Branford
was
Marsalis.
strong on this one. I thought his singing was
His
a little
singing
bit
was
stronger.
stronger.
His
on this
singing
one.
was good
Yeah.
on this one.
I think
It was all like, I don't know. It was more emotional, was what it felt like too, and I felt the same about Eyes of the World. I think.
If you've
which
ever,
is why I like that one.
if you've ever played a set and you've got a bunch of songs that you've played before, and they're all good, you know, you have fun with all of them, but then all of a sudden you come up to the song that either you want to do, not necessarily one that you get into every single time, but it's like, oh, tonight I'm feeling this. I feel like Jerry kind of had that thought process because Branford was on stage. He's like, man, this song is going to sound fantastic with Branford on, and I want to be on for that. And so I think he kind of...
he's like, I'm going to fucking knock this one out of the park.
And he did. And he does with everything. He's Jerry Garcia, but you know what I mean. When you can consistently be that good, every once in a while you key and you're like, hey, I'm just going to put that little extra oomph into this one. I think he pulled that out with the Birdsong with Branford on it.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's so good.
There's nothing.
So
there's nothing bad about the Birdsong.
I can't even get upset at the vocals. I mean, Jerry was right on.
Yeah.
You know, within the realm of what Jerry does, but he was really good. You know, and my dad says it really well. He plays like rain, and he sings in such a way that it's just like this forlorn, like, sigh almost, but with more presence. I don't know how to describe it. There's a different way, and there's better iterations of that description. But he plays like raindrops at times, and he has this cry that'll pull you out of yourself. Both Jerry and Brent are very, very good at that in their own individualistic and very unique ways. I don't think they're similar in how they do it. I think they just do it very well.
I know this is a big characteristic of just the DNA of this song, like any version. But I think part of what I really loved and appreciated with the Dark Star in this one, like in that song, always it sounds like, to your point, like rain. Like Jerry just sounds like he's cascading through those scales, and that the version in here was, I mean, I think part of why I loved it, as we've discussed, the three the three members of the band in this show that were just killing it are Brent, Branford, and Jerry. And
sorry, that's not to say the other members aren't fantastic.
No, of course,
it's just they're holding down like a freight train.
Yeah.
They're doing the hard work, the good work.
Yeah.
The good righteous work. But those three members really did kick it out. They're the stars.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
No, I just and you're exactly right. Everyone else was holding it down for them and really also had their high moments. But those three just on this particular show just really worked well together as a little team. And I think part of the thing with the Dark Star was that was where I really felt it. I really felt them. I felt like Jerry was cascading through those scales, and I felt like I really felt that Branford was also just complementing that in a way that I'd never heard before on a Dark Star. So I would agree, like it's not close to the best Dark Star, but it's very much so one of the most unique I've ever heard. And there were moments on this thing, especially towards the end of it, when they started to go a little bit more, where it's getting into drums and they're starting to almost like fall apart a little bit. There was a section, I think around like the last like 3 to 2 minutes of the first version of Dark Star in this, where it almost felt like I want to say like Bitches Brew by like Miles Davis, or that era of Miles Davis electric jazz, because it's like a lot's just going on in chaos, but it's working together in a way that's really enriching. So
yeah, I would definitely agree. It is super unique, and the saxophone just like adds a whole nother level to their playing.
I'm sorry, that was a long tangent.
No, but that was a great.
That was good.
It was a Dark Star tangent.
That was a great diatribe.
It was good.
What question? Does it go Dark Star, drum space?
Yes, and then back.
Okay, that's why. So every time, see, I believe the end of this Dark Star into drums and space. That's what left me with a less than lustrous impression of this Dark Star. I liked this Dark Star a lot, but it didn't transition gently into that good night. It fell apart.
But
I'm sorry, into that drums, it really fell apart, and that's what kept stayed in my head. It's not to say I didn't really appreciate the uniqueness of that orchestration of that Dark Star, the way they did it, the way each player complemented each other. That was fantastic. It's just the way they transitioned into that next song that left that taste in my mouth about that particular Dark Star.
See, I liked that section because I liked that almost like I was saying, like Miles Davis, or I would even mention like the Ascension album by John Coltrane, which has a lot of that same, like, it's not as electronic, but it's got like chaos going on. And that kind of like avant-garde jazz approach. I really like that.
Atonal.
Yeah. Okay, there we go.
Maybe I'm just not cultured. I don't know.
Well, no. I'm not saying that. It's
I know,
it's an abrasive style. Like it sounds like everything's falling apart. It sounds like everyone's playing over each other and just kind of like I guess atonal is the term, but like
where it lacks a key center.
Yes.
There isn't any.
Yes.
You're going through all 12 notes.
Yes.
Of the 12-tone system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, so.
And rhythms are falling apart as well on top of each other, I feel like.
I'd be really curious to look into that.
Atonal I guess atonal music.
Because I haven't heard that whole Miles Davis stuff that you're talking about. Like that those particular references you're bringing up I haven't listened to, but I'd be curious to.
I think Bitches Brew would
Bitches
definitely
Brew
be.
Is must listen.
There's a Bitches Brew live album. Maybe we could cover
Might
that
have to do that
someday.
one.
That's a cool album.
Yeah.
Because with that background, it would probably be a different listening experience for me. But as somebody who's uninformed from that perspective, it did sound a bit like it was starting to fall apart.
Well, and the funny thing with that specific moment of jazz and that kind of character of the music, like it's very it grows on you. It's not like the first time I heard that album, for instance, like it was like, this is not my favorite Miles Davis album. Like, what am I hearing here? There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
But it's as you start to listen a little deeper and you pick the pieces. I would just say it's a hard sound to to grow accustomed to.
Yeah, you really got to like get familiar with it, because if you're not, it's really.
I think I will just say I can't think of too many moments where they do that, where the Dead do that.
I can't either, which is I think why
that,
I
like,
was
style,
disoriented.
I remember.
I mean, they usually do it in every Dark Star.
Well, I feel like at a
there's
part
like that.
Well,
there's
for a
always
period.
a part. Yeah, it seemed longer in this Dark Star.
Yeah.
I remember the Europe 72 Volume 2 version of the other one on the second disc. There's also a Dark Star on that second disc that does it, but the other one on that, they really do it in that version. Yeah. But that's the only other one that comes to mind. So to your point, like it's not as common for them.
I did like the Dark Star though. I liked the Dark Star, and I liked I'm not sure I like the Space, although I'm always iffy on Space. That's just drums and Space. Drums I can see opinions on. Space is a bit hard to have an opinion on, just because it's so many things to so many different people. You know? But the drums was
yeah, Space is kind of just
drums
like,
was good.
I don't know. There isn't. It's hard to like judge Space.
Yeah, because there's no. Up is down, down is up, left is right, and everything is diagonal.
Exactly, yeah.
Which means, the general measurements by which you would discern whether something is good or bad does not apply. Your scale does not measure what my thing is, because my thing is a completely different realm than what you're measuring.
Yeah.
That's space in a song. So. But it's still cool. I mean, it's definitely, my dad says it's time to go pee. When Drums and Space comes on, go to the bathroom, get some snacks.
That is the usual.
Come back.
I mean, it is.
It is
for most people.
Because you don't want to leave during the break, then you're going to come back to a missing spot.
So, all right. So, out of, we had the second set, Eyes of the World, estimated drums, or Dark Star drum space.
Good eyes.
Did you guys, what does everyone have to say kind of about the end of the show? The wheel, throwing stones, turn on your love light, knocking on heaven's door.
So I would say, for me, the wheel, throwing stones, meh. They were all right. I liked Turn On Your Love Light, and I liked Knocking on Heaven's Door. I didn't like it first, but it's grown on me since the first time I listened to it. That is my quick synopsis of the last third of the show.
Got some thoughts. Just some, though.
Yes.
Yes. So the wheel and throwing stones. I don't even really remember Throwing Stones, I'm not going to lie. And I listened to that show a whole bunch.
It was the most forgettable of all of them, for sure.
But
and it was 9 minutes long, too. So
which is like, how does that happen? But the wheel reminded me how much I like that song. Not because this particular version was Jammin', though, which was weird. Like, I would listen to it and actively be thinking, wow, I really like this song. I haven't heard it in a while, but I don't necessarily like it because this version kicks ass. You know? So kind of went by, but those last two songs, what was it? Something in Knocking on Heaven's Door?
Turn On Your Love Light?
Yeah.
Turn On Your Love Light. Turn On Your Love Light, I liked it, but I'm not going to lie, and don't take this the wrong way. Knocking on Heaven's Door, I liked it, and I would sit through it with a beer in my hand at a concert happily. But if I were headed for the door and trying to beat traffic, I wouldn't have been that upset.
Okay.
Like, I would have loved to tune into a radio and listen to them finishing up the concert, or maybe catch it the next day. But I'm not going to lie, I probably would have been headed, if I were on the floor at a concert in a stadium, I would have been headed for the door. Not because of the music, but because, like, at that point in the show, I was like, all right, guys, thank you, I love you, I appreciate you. This is the last one.
I do feel like I might have been disappointed. If I had been at this show with that last third, I think I would have been disappointed.
Yeah.
Especially because I think the strongest is in that middle section of the show. And then, like, after that, then you just kind of pull out this, like, meh.
And it's not
last
to say
third.
it's not to say the Dead is disappointing. They never disappoint. I mean,
No.
on a scale of, they're on their worst day, they are better than 99% of performing musicians out there who are doing their thing. That's just how they are. That's what they do. But on a scale of Grateful Dead compared to Grateful Dead, when you hold them to their own standard, That last, what did you call it, a third?
Yeah.
Last fourth?
Third.
Last third or so was just, the energy was lower. They were tired. And I didn't necessarily like, the world's greatest cover band, they do all these covers fantastically because they do it the way they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And they did Knocking on Heaven's Door absolutely in their own style, the way they wanted to. But it sounds like they were just playing it, not doing their own interpretation and taking pride in it and having fun. And they were playing an encore that was on the set list. And I don't know, I probably would have started walking at that point. Not because I don't like them, just because, I got to get to my car.
Yeah. The Wheel was good. But again, not the best version. The only real note I had on it was Jerry's tone was I really liked his guitar tone on that song. But outside of that, Throwing Stones was forgettable. I've heard them do better versions of Knocking on Heaven's Door. I actually was going to say I really did like the Love Light on this. I really liked the Love Light for closing up the second set. It wasn't the best Love Light. It was nothing crazy, but I really liked it, and it was also one of the few older songs that was in the set, really old. So yeah, and I agree with you guys though. I think the end of this show, the very end, those last four, I just think something else would have been cooler at the end. Either an other one might have been cool, but honestly, if you wanted to do a slower,
an other one with the saxophone would have been incredible.
I actually think a good slow song would have been Stella Blue with Branford. I think that could have been really powerful, almost in a way that the Bird song was. Morning Dew also. I would say those three could have been really cool.
I didn't even think about that. That would have been fucking incredible.
Yeah, that would have been the way to end that set. I didn't even think about that
Have
either.
a Morning Dew to close it out.
I think that would have been crazy.
With Branford on the...
Good.
Oh!
Yeah. But that would have been, that's
too much to ask for. That's too much. That's just, that's an angel coming down and putting a cherry on a cake.
So, but yeah. Do we want to do final comments on the overall thoughts on the show?
Do we want to go MC first?
You want to go first? I think I started, then Braiden, so yeah.
I will be the first one to admit I did not listen to this show as many times as I probably need to really, really love it and have a big opinion on it. I definitely could have listened to this one a little bit more, and I will in the future. But part of why I think I didn't is because it didn't grip me in a way where I was obsessed to turn it on. Overall, I loved the show. I would probably say that this was a solid a 6 or a 7 out of 10. I'd probably say a 6.5 out of 10 for me. I think that there are some big highlights on this show. I think that the Eyes of the World, the Bird Song, the Dark Star, I thought those were all contender versions. Maybe the Dark Star being the least contender version. That Bird Song really might be one of the greatest Bird songs of all time. This show left me wanting to listen to a lot more Branford Marsalis and him with the band. I think a big thing with this show, and I know I've spoke with Braiden and yourself about this a little bit before. I think part of my thing with this show is because it was their first time playing with Branford Marsalis, there was a little bit more hesitancy. It felt like the whole show there was a little bit more of a laying back and kind of feeling him out and feeling out the band with this, instrument that they're not used to. And because of that, I felt like there were fewer moments on this thing where it built up and really kicked through the roof. It was a little more laid back. It was a little more of them trying to figure it out. And I just felt that hesitancy kind of throughout it. It kind of felt a little bit like they were just kind of getting through the songs and just kind of on a consistent plateau throughout. But yeah, overall loved the show. I just felt that there were a lot of moments on this thing where I felt it was pretty consistent. But I think the later shows with Branford must be. Sure.
We gotta listen to those later shows with Branford, man. He's just such an asset, such an addition.
You want to go next?
Yeah, I'll take next. So overall thoughts on this show. are ranging, because I completely agree with your stance. Like you were like, I didn't listen to it as much, which honestly is just a comment on the show a bit. And I don't mean to say that in a way that implies that it's a bad thing. It's a fantastic show. Again, they're the Grateful Dead. They just do that. But to your point, it is a bit of a consistent, chuggy show. Like in the sense that on their worst day, they're better than most people at their best. But the dynamic range was like flat, if you will. Not dynamic range, but they didn't light off like a firecracker on several occasions like they do in several other sets. And my dad can attest to it. He's like, man, when I went to see the Grateful Dead, sometimes they would bring you right in, start whispering in your ear, or make you start laughing or make you rowdy, and then they would have your ass is on fire, the roof is on the ground, and everybody is having a riot. And then by the end of the song, they got you right back in the palm of your hand. This show didn't do that. This show was a great road trip show because I could listen to it consistently and I could tune in when I needed to or when I wanted to. But it wasn't a cardinal sin to tune out at the perfect moment of like a great solo if I have to pay attention to a stoplight or I'm merging onto a highway. Does that make sense? Like, that's really hard to describe, but like it was just such a consistently good show that I felt great tuning in and I felt all right tuning out.
I would say I sort of agree with you and sort of disagree with you because I think the big moments are the saxophone. I would agree they don't really do the thing where they will go quiet and it's like whispering and then all of a sudden it's just this big loud like grand
like I was
opus,
expecting
and then they go back and close the song with, they don't have any of that. But I think that the saxophone adds enough interesting character for me to be like, this is a fantastic show.
Well, that's why I loved it. Like, it's a fantastic show, but that's exactly why I loved it for the road trip, right?
Yes.
Because listening to it, they're consistently amazing, but then Branford would be that thing where I'm like, all right, I'm on this line 30 miles.
Yeah, see, whenever he came in, I was always like, especially attention. Like when he comes in on Eyes of the World, it's like
it snaps you to attention.
It just grabs you.
Exactly. And
doesn't matter what you're doing.
It feels like you've never heard a song you've heard a million times before.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's like totally different. And I think Eyes and Birdsong and honestly, the Dark Star. I was like those. I don't know. I would say those are enough to make me like love this show, and it's still probably one of my more favorite shows. But definitely not the best. Yeah, but I do really enjoy it.
Yeah, man, that was a good show. Good suggestion.
That was actually
my suggestion.
Good suggestion, Dave.
So
because of the saxophone, because I was like, oh my god, they have Eyes with saxophone, and then I listened to the whole show. I was like, it's a pretty good show, and I just kept listening to it. But
it is a good show.
We'll see. I think next we might go with you with the Two Terrapin, which is a wonderful show.
I'm excited.
That's what I've been listening to in tandem when I'm not listening to this show. I was listening to the Two Terrapin in Hartford, 1977. So good, man. It's fast. It is fast, but it's really good.
And for anyone who will be tuning in next time, that's probably what we're going to be doing. So if you're curious to listen to that show, the album is Two Terrapin. It's May 28th, 1977, I think.
I think so, yeah, 28th.
Yes, Hartford, Connecticut. All right, thank you guys for tuning in for episode 1 of Van Jammin', and please subscribe and tune back in for more music-related content and more stuff that we'll be putting out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.